Thank you so much for coming out here today and to our esteemed guests and dignitaries. Since I was a young kid growing up in Edison, I have heard so much about burglaries and home invasions that would occur, not just in Edison Township, but throughout the state of New Jersey. And it was always a concern. Some of those meetings had been held with previous mayors right here in this room. And when I became mayor, just more than 2 years ago, I realized then that the problem has gotten far worse than many years before. What had happened and what I learned was that the law in the state of New Jersey was not serving as a deterrent as it should. And before we reached out to the state, we wanted to know what we could do in-house right here in Edison to address the crisis of home invasions and burglaries. And some of the measures that we took, I did so with working very closely with our chief of police, as well as the prosecutor's office, and speaking to our attorney general. We had increased the amount of patrol officers. We increased the amount of police officers to 196, which is the highest level of police officers here in Edison Township in 15 years. That wasn't enough, so we added 100 license plate readers strategically placed throughout the entire town. We also partnered up with ATTF, the Auto Task Force in the state of New Jersey. We added canine units. We did so many things. We actually implemented a surge, which meant that we had 3, sometimes even 4 times the amount of police officers that were on the road at a given time. And yet that was still not enough, because when our officers were catching those bad guys and those criminals, what would end up happening is, unfortunately, some of them, especially the juveniles, would get right back out on the street. And it demoralized our department. But what's worse is, on a weekly basis, I spoke in my office or on the streets in Edison. I have spoken with our police to the victims. And the current law, as we saw it, and I've expressed this to the Attorney General and the Governor as well, the current law sympathizes more with the perpetrators rather than justice for the victims. We have some of the victims here today of burglaries and home invasions and attempted home invasions, and it's alarming. Someone like Kieran, who woke up in the middle of the night because there were 3 individuals within her property screaming. That is traumatic. I have spoken to children that have not been able to sleep properly ever since that incident occurred. We have Goldie here in the room as well, because in the middle of the night, folks, the bad guys broke into his home. They went through his entire house. And the trauma that you must have gone through, I cannot imagine what it's like to be in your shoes. But today, we are turning a page in New Jersey's history, because democracy works. We have an awesome legislator. We have an awesome set of folks around here, the Attorney General as well as the Governor, who listen. And they understand the problem as well. And we want justice for each of you. We don't want this to be a problem in the first place. So today, as we turn the page and as the law changes, I have a heartfelt thank you to all of the legislators that helped put this together. From Senator Bucco to Assemblyman Karabinchak, Assemblyman Sterling Stanley, the Speaker. I know Senator Patrick Duggan could not be here today, but there were so many people involved in this process to make it happen. Senator Vin Gopal, and as well as I thank the PBA, the state PBA, for your support as well. I'm proud to say that we're getting this done. This is a monumental change, and this is a historic day for turning the page in our justice system. This would not have happened had it not been for each and every single one of you. I will make note, the Governor and Attorney General, I will not be calling you later at night like I did for the many times that I did, or texting you. This chapter will now close today. But thank you for hearing my pleas. because we needed to do something, and like I said, democracy works. We are making a huge shift in the change of law. Again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for being here, and thank you to my staff who helped put all of this together, and especially the council president, Kat Leary, who drove this behind scenes, Bob Deal, and Sonia, my business administrator, that drove and encouraged me to push this so much. Thank you all.
Sam, thank you. You are still welcome to call me late at night. I'm sure there'll be other matters that come up. Good morning, everyone. I want to start by thanking Sam for putting this topic and this challenge and the reason why we're all here today into stark relief. I want to thank you, members of your council, and Team Edison for hosting us this morning. And today, as Sam mentioned, we are taking an important step forward in our collective efforts to strengthen public safety and protect communities and families all across New Jersey. There's lots of people here who deserve a shout out. I'm not going to get them all, but I want to start by thanking the Senate Minority Leader, Tony Bucco, who's with us today. Tony, thank you for being here and for leading on this. It's a bipartisan effort. The Legislative District 18 is in the House, represented by Sterling Stanley. Sterling, thank you for your leadership. I know Pat Dignan wanted to be here and couldn't. Rob Karabenchak was here as of a couple of days ago, and sadly his neighbor of 40 years passed, and he's eulogizing him as we speak. A shout out, you mentioned the Speaker, Craig Coughlin, and I mentioned Pat Dignan as well. I want to thank all the legislators in both parties for helping us get this thing over the goal line. Attorney General Matt Platkin, Superintendent of State Police Pat Callahan, I deeply appreciate your leadership. To all members of law enforcement, especially the senior members of the Edison PD and their team, thank you for hosting us. Union leaders, we have Wayne Blanchard and Rob Nixon in the House. Thank you guys for your leadership, and to all the brave women and men who keep our community safe. My Congressman, Frank Pallone, is with us. Thank you for being a key advocate at the federal level to ensuring that our municipalities have the resources they need to keep our families safe. Frank, thank you for that. We've got Ron Rios, and on behalf of you and your fellow commissioners, Ron, Prosecutor Yolanda Ciccone is with us. Thank you, Madam Prosecutor, and your team, and to everybody here, thank you for being with us. So this legislation that I'll be signing into law in a few moments, with this, we are going to keep building on our progress to ensure that New Jersey remains the best state anywhere in America to live, work, and to raise a family. And as always, sustaining that reputation means ensuring that every family feels safe in our state, on our streets, and especially within their homes. I also want to acknowledge Paramount Guard, our Chief Counsel, who helped get this thing over the goal line as well. Great to have you. But sadly, we've seen too many instances of that fundamental promise of safety within our homes and in our communities being violated. And as Sam mentioned graphically just over the past week here in Edison, we've seen a number of families who have had their homes invaded and their personal possessions stolen. You mentioned Kieran and Goldie. Where are you folks? Just want to say thank you for being here, and God bless you both for your courage and your families as well. And just a few days ago, we saw a horrific tragedy unfold in Cumberland County, where a county prosecutor's detective, Monica Mosley, was shot and killed during a home invasion. We've also seen, again, as Sam referenced, instances of families having not just had their homes burgled in search of car keys so criminals could steal their cars out of their driveway and depriving them of the means to get to work, to drop kids at school, and then on and on and on. And I have to say, by the way, I know enough to be dangerous in year 7, and having been involved in a bunch of National Governors Association, this is a national dilemma. We are neither unique, but at the same time, we are not exempt. And we have to understand that. And there are very few states in America that are taking the steps that we're going to take today to push back on this. Now, fortunately, we haven't been standing still. Over the years, we have made progress in combating these acts of theft and violence on a statewide level. But clearly, there is still more progress to be made as we work to bring the number of these crimes down as close to zero as possible, which is why we need to ensure that our state's laws hold perpetrators of these crimes accountable and help prevent them from being committed in the first place. And that is exactly what we hope to achieve with the bill that I'm signing today. This legislation, without getting into the details, will significantly raise penalties for home invasion, burglary, and residential burglary. And if such a crime is committed by an individual carrying a firearm or a deadly weapon, this law will ensure that they face even stronger penalties. It will extend to juveniles. It will give judges an enormous amount of latitude as it relates to juveniles. It will impact your ability to get a license well down the road. This is tough, tough medicine. All of these reforms will help make our criminal justice system more responsive to meaningful threats, support our continued efforts to restore the public's trust in that system, and at the same time while making our streets and communities safer. I also want to be clear that our administration remains unwavering in our commitment to build a criminal justice system that is both strong, for sure that's going to be emphasized in a few minutes when I sign this, but at the same time continues to be fair. As I've said before, when it comes to public safety, we need to reject the notion that fairness comes at the cost of vigilance. That is a false trade-off, and our administration has proven that time and again over the past nearly now 7 years. Together with many of the leaders here today, we have demonstrated that we can live up to our nation's promise of justice for all, while at the same time combating and preventing violent crime. That is why even as we have worked to untangle the failed and often discriminatory criminal justice policies of the past, our administration has also enacted some of the strongest gun safety laws in the nation. We've also provided historic funding to support community-based violence intervention efforts. These investments have empowered our partners who do the on-the-ground work by helping them mediate and prevent disputes from devolving into a violent conflict. And just recently, as a result of these reforms and investments, we reached a major milestone in building a stronger, safer, and more just state. Last year, New Jersey saw its lowest number of shootings on record since records have been kept. And I'm praying, I for one, and I know I'm joined by many here today, that that trend can continue. So the bottom line is this: we are making real progress to ensure our communities are safer for everyone. And today's legislation is yet another testament to that truth. This is another reason Sam will be calling me that he needs help from the budget to keep the lights on. So, just making sure you're all paying attention out there. So I thank all of our partners for their commitment to preventing violent crime and for helping make this legislation a reality. All of our residents will be safer for it. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to the Attorney General of the great state of New Jersey, Matt Black.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Mayor, for having us. I would say you're welcome to call, but I know you'll still call it. But it's an honor. It's an honor to be here. This is a really important day. I want to thank all the partners in the legislature, Congressman, for your leadership, our law enforcement partners, county prosecutors, Chief. This is a conversation I've had with many of you now for going on almost 3 years. And this is a really significant step in keeping our state safe. I want to just first extend my condolences following what the governor said to the family of Detective Sergeant Monica Mosley from the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office. I met Monica. I didn't know her particularly well, but she was the best of what law enforcement stood for. And if you've read anything about her over the past few days, or if you've spoken to her colleagues, as I have, we should, A, mourn her loss, be tremendously proud that we have law enforcement officers like her throughout our state. And know that thanks to the work of the State Police Major Crimes Unit and the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office, we are actively investigating this case, and we will bring those perpetrators to justice. Your home is your sanctuary, and when that sense of security is violated, as the mayor said, and as the governor said, it is very hard to wake up every morning and feel safe. And as the chief law enforcement officer of this state, tasked principally with keeping the 9.3 million residents of this state safe, when that sanctity is violated, then we have to respond. And the tools that are being provided today by the governor and by the legislature will make us more capable and more effective at keeping our residents safe and serving that critical mission. And it builds on the work that the governor referenced over the past 7 years that has produced some of the strongest support and tools for law enforcement in the history of our state. When you look at gun violence, as the governor mentioned, historic investments in community-based violence intervention, tools for law enforcement, providing my office with civil enforcement tools to hold the gun industry accountable, defending the strongest gun safety laws in America. All of that leads to, as the governor said, a historic, record low number of shootings. And we are making progress, Governor. This year we're 18%, as of this week, knock on wood, below where we were last year. You're six times more likely to be shot and killed in Mississippi than you are in New Jersey. Now, I don't think people in Mississippi are any more violent inherently than people in New Jersey, but it's because of the tools that the legislature and the governor have given law enforcement, because of the bravery and the great work of law enforcement, and it's because of the way we defend and enforce our laws, as we are doing here today. Similarly, we know that there's been a significant linkage between burglaries, which we're talking about today, and auto thefts. So the governor put the single biggest, and the mayor referenced this, investment in state history in automated license plate reader technology, one of the best tools we have to combat auto thefts. We strengthened our auto theft laws in partnership with the legislature, law enforcement, and the government. And this year, auto thefts are down 12% relative to last year. And so we're continuing to make progress. And I know with the tools we have today, now if you burglarize someone's dwelling with a weapon, as the governor said, or commit bodily injury or attempt to do so, it's now a first-degree crime in the state of New Jersey. Otherwise, it's a second-degree offense. These are serious penalties, and we don't take those steps lightly. I know the legislature and the governor didn't. And in law enforcement, I know I speak for our entire law enforcement community when I say we are prepared to use these tools so that sanctity of your home, that sanctuary, can remain just that. I want to thank, in addition to all those who have been thanked, the County Prosecutors Association, Prosecutor Ciccone, Prosecutor Carroll's here, state chiefs of police, our law enforcement union partners have been essential in thinking this through and helping advocate for what is, I believe, will be legislation that will truly help make our state an even safer place. So thank you, Governor. I appreciate all that you've done for law enforcement and for the state, keep the state of New Jersey safe, and thank you all.
Is Bob Carroll? Bob, I missed you. I apologize. Morris County Prosecutor. Thank you, Matt, for the words and for your having, you and your colleagues in law enforcement for having the backs of our residents. With that, we've got another great leader with us. Please help me welcome the Superintendent of the New Jersey State Police, Colonel Pat Calvin.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. I'll be brief. Echo a few of the similar remarks the Governor made, the Attorney General made. Thanks to the sponsors, the legislature. I looked this up the other day when I was invited here. There was not one no vote on this legislation. It speaks to, one, the need for it, but two, the bipartisan support of it. You just have to turn on the TV to realize that this was the time for this legislation to go through. So thank you to the legislature, and certainly to the governor. As I was sitting here, I was thinking about being a young trooper and detective and the burglaries that I would investigate in those almost 100 towns that we cover. And I remember the victims, each and every one of them had that same sense of being violated. Coming home, I remember one in particular in Glen Gardner, a widow whose wedding ring was stolen and never got that back. It's a different thing to be in your home. a different kind of violation, to wake up to people rummaging through your drawers and looking for your file, or stealing laptops, and the trauma that goes with that. And as a young trooper, solved many of them, didn't solve all of them, but I think this legislation, one, served as a deterrent, and then two, for those that are caught and successfully prosecuted, to hold them accountable to the highest degree. I'm glad the Gov and AG talked about those trends. I wake up every morning at 5:30 to report how many people were shot in New Jersey, how many people died as a result of those shootings, how many people overdosed, and how many cars were stolen. And that's important because of the nexus between all three of them. We have a small group of violent recidivist offenders doing most of this. The AG talked about us being down 18%. Our goal last year was to get under 1,000. Knocking on wood, we will be under 900, and that was the goal this year, to be under 900. But the fact that those shooters, and Joe Brennan would be glad that I said this, our retired lieutenant colonel, every single shooter in New Jersey is involved in auto theft. You think about that. Every shooter is involved in auto theft. They are the ones breaking into homes and doing this a lot of the times. Not every single person involved in theft is a shooter, but that small group of recidivist offenders that time and time again violate people's privacy and come into their homes. So I'm honored to speak on behalf of all of law enforcement to say thank you to the legislature, thank you to the governor. This will make a difference as we continue to trend down with the ultimate goal of being zero one day, a tough goal and a lofty goal, but the fact that we're going to be under 900 this year and to see those auto thefts also going down speaks volumes to this collaborative effort. That's certainly, it takes a village moment for all of us. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. All incredibly well said. I mentioned earlier that my congressman, Edison's congressman, is in Washington fighting like hell on the federal level, hand in glove with what we're doing here in the state level to keep this state as safe as humanly possible. It's my honor to ask him to come on up and say a few words. Congressman Frank Pallone.
Thank you, Governor. And I do want to say that at the federal level, we really are trying very hard to provide more police and equipment to help fight crime. And a lot of you are familiar with the COPS grants, which I try every year to get more funding for. We have gotten more funding. And then we try to help the police departments apply for these grants. And we've been pretty successful in Middlesex and Monmouth County in getting more COPS grants, and not only for more police, but also for more equipment. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to thank the state and our local officials for what they're doing with this bill, because I do think this bill is very important, and I'll tell you why. I know that it's true, it's already been mentioned that under the governor's aegis and the Attorney General, that we see less shootings, we see New Jersey a much safer place because of the resources they provided. But this issue of home invasion, I just hear about it all the time, and it's not just in Middlesex, it's in Monmouth as well. And particularly in the summer. In the summer, our office is just, oftentimes people will call up, because I think what happens in the summer, particularly if people have like a summer home, right? They'll leave the doors open, right? They think, oh, it's summer, I'm enjoying the ocean, I'm enjoying the outside. They leave the door open, and a lot of times there aren't that many people there. Somebody's at work, somebody else is at home taking care of the kids. And we just see a lot of these. Now, I don't know statistically how many there are, but the fact is there's a lot of concern about it. We've actually even had town meetings with Bim Gopal, the county prosecutor in Monmouth, to talk about it. And so it's not just a question of resources. The increase in penalties, the way the Attorney General has described, I know is going to make a difference from a deterrence point of view. Because it's obvious, without getting into detail, I want to be brief if I can, it's obvious without getting into detail that a lot of these people that are doing these things are very concerned about whether they're going to be convicted, what level of crime they're going to be convicted of. I mean, that is clear. So when you talk about increasing these penalties, this is a real thing that I think is going to have a tremendous deterrent value in terms of actually stopping a lot of these home invasions, which is so important. So I just want to thank all of you. Sam, of course, the mayor, who said he's not going to call us, but you know, he's so great a mayor, he calls us all the time. And he's got all kinds of ideas about what should be done, and that's to his credit. So thank you too, Mayor, so much.
Well said. As Frank knows, we are Monmouth County residents, and I had a meeting with a group of residents last week, and they were going through very similar stories to what you are going through here in Edison. So, and as I mentioned, this is not just Jersey. This is all over the country, but I will say what is Jersey is the step that we're taking today. Nobody else is doing this in the country. I mentioned, and Pat mentioned it as well, this passed overwhelmingly, to say the least, with a truckload of votes on both sides of the aisle. This is as bipartisan an effort as I can recall. And I'd love to ask a representative from each of the chambers to come on up, and from two different political parties. A dear friend, Senate Minority Leader, another great leader, Tony Bucco. Senator.
Thank you, Governor. It's an honor to be here today. Mayor, thank you for hosting this historic bill signing. And maybe if I can take the pressure off the governor and the congressman and the attorney general, I'll give you my cell phone before you leave today. And if you want to call me at night, I'm usually up. But seriously, I want to thank the governor for signing this bill today. This is a major step for New Jersey. I want to thank the law enforcement agencies, particularly the state chiefs of police, the Sheriff's Association, the Prosecutors Association, the Attorney General's Office, for helping in crafting this legislation and providing the comments necessary so that law enforcement and the judiciary and the prosecutors can do their jobs effectively and efficiently. Because that's what it's all about, right? It's about catching these folks and putting them where they belong, behind bars, right? I want to thank the great group of bipartisan legislators that came together on this legislation. You know, this is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is a human issue. This is a public safety issue. And the fact that everyone came together speaks so highly of how we're able to work together here in New Jersey to do great things for the residents of the state. We work really hard to make sure our residents are safe. You know, they say your home is your castle, right? But it can't be your castle if you're afraid to be there. And for those that are victims of these heinous crimes, it's traumatic and it lasts. This doesn't go away after the incident is over. We live it on a daily basis. So we've got to give law enforcement and our prosecutors and our judges the tools to make sure that there is a deterrent for anybody who's considering committing one of these crimes. And I hope today sends a strong message to anybody out there who's thinking about committing one of these crimes. Understand this, that if you commit the crime, our law enforcement personnel will catch you, our prosecutors will prosecute you, and you will spend time in jail as a result of this legislation. And I was proud to be a major part of it. Thank you, and God bless you.
Senator, thank you for those words and for your leadership on this. And again, I can't say enough good things, as you have said, about the bipartisan cooperation that got us to today. Speaking of which, you need two chambers and two parties to get to where we are. And I'd love to bring up another terrific leader representing Edison, representing the 18th Legislative District. Please help me welcome Assemblyman Sterling Stanley.
Thank you, Governor. First of all, I'd like to start by saying, a sign of good governance is when strong leaders act upon the concerns that they hear from the voices of the people that they actually represent. I want to start first with thanking the governor's office, the governor's office, Paramount, for being there to help support us in every step of the way when we were crafting this bill. When Mayor Joshi first came to me with this issue, I reached out to the Speaker's office, and our Speaker, he was instrumental too in guiding me in helping us to craft this bill. And we took so many different measures, going to the AG's office, speaking to the police, speaking to the state. Everyone's involved. I want to thank the prosecutor's office also. Madam Prosecutor, thank you for putting together that meeting for me where I was able to talk to all the juvenile prosecutors in your office early on in the spring. And all these things, it shows how we all come together to get this done. I want to start also, I want to thank my running mates, Councilwoman Karabenchak and Senator Daigan, and all the colleagues in my legislatures who came together. And like you said, there were no vote. Why? Because we knew this had to get done. And Mayor Joshi, thank you for your leadership in this town. And if it wasn't for you and all your phone calls to not just them, me, everybody, this would not have come to fruition. And bringing this to light and being able to push this, and push everybody to help do this, that's a great thing. That's what made this all possible. After hearing an outcry from our state municipalities regarding home burglaries and car thefts, I realized that as elected leaders, we have a responsibility to not just ensure that our residents are safe, but there's also a responsibility to make sure that they feel safe. Unfortunately, it became clear throughout the many community meetings that due to what seems to be a unique rise in home burglaries and other related crimes, we began looking into apparent ways to get different laws put to place and examine the laws that we had. Our laws right now do not distinguish between burglaries of a residence or burglaries of any other type of building, and pay no attention to whether or not residents were home in the building was in fact a residence. The consequence of this is that we as policymakers do not currently have sufficient metrics to draw objective conclusions as to pertains to how we truly confront the unprecedented outcry from our communities regarding home burglaries. In light of this, we created this bill, which creates two new tools that become indispensable for our state's prosecutors to finally be able to confront what appears to be a rise in home burglaries, not just in New Jersey, but throughout the United States. These two new changes will be available for prosecutors to charge our second-degree felony of home burglary, which is the crime of burglarizing someone's home while they're not home, and the first-degree felony of home invasion burglary, which is when someone burglarizes home when folks are in the home. By codifying into law these two new types of charges, we finally give our prosecutors the tools they need to hold criminals accountable, while also providing us with the necessary data in order to come to a better understanding of the risks our communities are currently facing. I want to make a couple of things very clear. To break into someone's home is a crime. To do so while residents are in the home is not just a crime of burglary, but it is a terrorizing crime for the residents. And it's something that stays with them for the rest of their lives, to be there. And I've spoken to many people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who still talk about when they were teenagers or when they were young, and they were there present. And that's a traumatic effect that never leaves you. So that is something we think this will really address. Additionally, none of us revel in the reality that this bill might lead to individuals serving substantially more time in prison, but something had to be done in order to hold individuals who break into our homes accountable. And while we regret the reality that some of our neighbors will be more aggressively agitated for burglarizing homes and terrorizing families, we can't forget those who are terrorized by these acts. We cannot forget about the children and families who come to live a life where they feel nowhere is safe because they have had the sanctity of their homes violated in ways they never imagined. We cannot forget about the families who rightfully expect us, selected leaders, to uphold and preserve the sanctity of their homes, as was said previously with the governor, congressman, attorney general, and we've all mentioned this. And ultimately, we cannot forget our responsibility to do what is necessary, no matter how hard it may be, in order to provide for the safety of our children and our families. Once again, I want to thank Mayor Joshi and every local elected official that brought this to our attention, as well as the governor, some Caravan-Check, and all the colleagues who supported me getting this piece of legislation done. I really look forward to seeing our communities made a safer and more serene place to live here in New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Sterling, and congratulations. I know this means a lot to you. Deep thanks for your leadership. As they say in Hollywood, it's a wrap. Let's get this thing signed. If you think you're getting a pen, come on down. One observation of this bill which has not been said, this is effective immediately when I sign it.
Wow.
So it's not retroactive. So if someone has committed a crime, it's not going to be relevant to them. But somebody burglarizes a home at 12:15 today onward, they're subject to this law. I get that right, Paramount? Okay.
Let's sign it, let's go.
Yeah. First of all, do the money shot. I can't see a thing, but pretend I can. Okay. I'll put my glasses back on so I can read the damn thing. This is Senate Bills number 3006 and 3204. Synopsis is established crimes of home invasion, burglary, and residential burglary. Sponsored by the man to my left, Senator Tony Bucco, and Brian Stack and Vin Gopal in the Senate. And in the Assembly, Sterling Stanley, we just heard from his colleague Rob Karabinchek, and Avi Schnall, with a whole bunch of co-sponsors, happily, as I mentioned earlier, from both parties. So here goes. The mayor of Edison, Sam Joshi. Where are you, Sam? Right there, buddy. Thank you. I'm going to do one letter at a time here, given the amount of pens. Assemblyman Sterling Stanley. Senate Minority Leader, Senator Tony Bucco to my left. I said Tony was to my left. That might be one in a row. That's never going to happen. Making sure everyone's paying attention. He's not here, but let's hear it up for Senator Pat Diamond. As I mentioned, Rob is delivering a eulogy of his neighbor. We'll keep them in your prayers. Assemblyman Rob Karabinchek. Middlesex County's own. He wanted to be here today. I know could not. Speaker of the General Assembly, Craig Coughlin. He is here. The Attorney General of the great state of New Jersey, Matt Plackett. Superintendent of the State Police, Colonel Pat Callahan. My Congressman Frank Pallone. This won't take another hour or two. Representing the State Troopers Fraternal Association, the one and only Wayne Blanchard is in the house. A guy I think I've known as long as I've known anybody in this whole sphere. The Director of Governmental Affairs for the PBA, Rob Nixon. Rob? Could somebody also get a pen? He wanted to be here today and could not. Sean Lavin is the Executive Director of the Fraternal Order of Police. Let's hear it for them. I referenced her earlier, outstanding prosecutor Yolanda Ciccone from right here in Middlesex County. I also did not not know he was going to be here, but thrilled that he is. Another outstanding prosecutor, Morris County, Bob Carroll's in the house. Bob. Ronnie, we're getting there, buddy. Director of the Board of County Commissioners right here in Middlesex County, outstanding leader, Ron Rios. And they were mentioned both by Sam and by myself, 2 victims. And I hope that there is some measure of justice by signing of this bill for what they went through. Kieran Aurora. Kieran. As well as also from the township of Edison, Goldie Batra. Goldie. And as I said a few minutes ago, this is effective right now. And it is, as of right now, the law of the land.